Performing Borders Live is a program of public events, artist commissions and workshops that I, Alessandra Cianetti, and co-curator Xavier de Sousa curated since February 2016 to explore how live artists are addressing notions and lived experiences of borders, physical borders, cultural borders, racial borders, gender, economic, and all the intersections of borders. Polyphonic programs with different ways of thinking about borders, but also to have conversations around borders. That's why we had public events across England, actually, where we invited curators to invite artists of their choice. Then we had a workshop with Camille Barton. We have been curating a final event and artist commission performances to camera and digital conversations.
The first event that we curated was in Manchester at Contact Theatre as part of Queer Contact Festival, and for that we invited two amazing artists called Tuna Erdem and Nima Sene, who have very different practices and very different kind of cultural backgrounds and lived experiences, and we kind of wanted to get them together and figure out how their identities and experiences kind of were put in contrast to each other within the context of queerness and borders, I suppose.
It's more about an experience, we're creating an audio-visual experience rather than just, and I think in a way it's more like about acceptance of like, can you accept whatever is strange to you or what you don't know? Can I accept that I just don't know?
And then we invited Annie Kwan, curator Annie Kwan from Asia Art Activism, to invite an artist and have a conversation at the Attenborough Center for the Creative Arts. Annie invited Xin Yin, who is a photographer and artist who have been presenting a performative reading around trauma, war, and memories and families.
Dear Granddad, I never met you. And the family from the time when I was a child never talked about you. Except once. Dad mentioned in passing that you had died in China in the 1940s, and for some reason had a monument built to you.
And for London, we curated an event at Toynbee Studios with Artsadmin, and for that we invited these wonderful duo of curators called Osborne and Muller. And they in turn invited artist Auntie Cool, who's of Japanese descent and lives in England. So Auntie Cool wanted to premiere a new video piece called On Returning, and it was all about British families who have been faced with deportation or are waiting for Home Office decisions to bring their spouses back into the country.
My interest is in social systems and people who are affected by or influenced by our globalized society. And to explore social systems in globalized society, understanding the borders is very important.
In February, we launched an open call for digital conversations to explore how people could actually write about or think about borders and live art on a digital space. The selected applicants were Burong, there is Chinese researchers based at the University of Sussex that has been exploring Performance Hub in Belgrade, and the voices of artists like Franco B, Weston Page, Richard De Dominici, and others around their experience with performance art in Belgrade. The second digital conversation, called Patrolling, is experimental live writing by the duo Critical Interruptions. There is a Serbo-Romanian duo that is based in London.
We also commissioned two performances for camera, one by the Istanbul Queer Arts Collective, who performed a new piece called Mobius Stripping, and a directional piece which you can find on the performingborders.live website. We also commissioned Tara Fatehi Irani with a new piece called Borderline Dialogue, where she collaborated with artists from across the world. For the final big event, we wanted to create a space where everyone could contribute to the theme, which was curating borderless spaces. And for that, we wanted to create a space where everyone could feel represented and voiced and had a voice in the space and could explore their practices in a safe environment.
For creating borderless spaces, we wanted to invite provocation by live artists to reflect on how we can together create non-racist, feminist, non-binary, non-ableist spaces. So we invited artist Raj Rage to do a performative and participatory keynote, and it was about decolonial and post-colonial theories.
But what I'm going to be doing is basically sharing resources as again, a strategy to make connections. So going against this individualism and independence model to a more interdependent collective model of existing in the world. And that's kind of my response to how we create these borderless spaces.
Then we had provocations by artists Kai Sin Tang, Dana Olarescu, Bojana Jankovic and Helena Walsh. They were all tapping on different topics from abortion, Irish borders, prejudices and unconscious biases, but also the Home Office hostile environment, and also what does it mean to be an ally or an accomplice with other struggles across art and activism.
What is the intentionality of an ally or an accomplice? What about the idea of heroism within that, or tokenism within that, or the idea of a white savior within that? What qualifies someone as a good or true accomplice or ally, and what makes a shitty ally? How far are you willing to put yourself on the line? How far would you go? Because in crossing borders, when we try to cross borders, there are gatekeepers. You also need allies.
My husband's country blocks naturalization through marriage, and this country decided to leave the EU. My husband's country blames this decision on Eastern European women, and this country blames the decision in part on Eastern Europeans of all genders. I have failed to faithfully reenact Ostich's work, but as an Eastern European woman, I have no one but myself to blame. That's why today I'm announcing a new project entitled Looking for a Great-Grandparent with an EU Passport.
Hard. Soft. Physical infrastructure. Like a trade deal. A red line, like I'm in need of regulatory alignment, or maybe a technological solution, or maybe I'm just a backstop. So I say, fuck borders.
What really draws everything together, all of these disciplines, is that all of these disciplines are made of communities. So really what I wanted to kind of provoke you on today and work with you today is figuring out the borders of the mind and figuring out how we set up our own borders of the mind, which are sometimes borders of perception and expectation.
And also on the same day we launched the performances for camera. So Istanbul Queer Art Collective presented their performance, as well as Taras Fathairani. And during the day, we had Susan Butter as a writer in residence that's been responding throughout the day to the discourses and inputs and provocations, and she closed the day with a final performance.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just talking to a couple of people outside, and someone, an old friend that I haven't seen for a long time, asked me how I am, and I was about to say the polite answer, but instead I said the real answer, which is that I'm so fucking angry, and my shoulders are sore and my back is sore, and I'm just so fucking angry.
Performances to camera commissions and the conversation were also launched in Nogales, that is at the Mexico-US border, as part of the Beyond the Wall Festival. There is a festival that was set up after Trump was elected against his policies. So the idea is to create an international discourse and collaboration around borders.
Each event was very different to each other, in very different contexts, with very different themes and very different kind of approaches. And we had a lot of artists and curators kind of exploring their provocations very freely. And that, I think, brought a lot of vibrant conversation to the table and kind of stuff that we hopefully in the future would want to develop even further.
To me, Performing Borders Live was a very interesting way to see how the online platform Xavier and I have been working on, Performing Borders Live, .live, a website, could actually be brought outside the desktop, how this ongoing research could actually create different contexts where people could talk. So I think I was, amazed by the fact that there were so many good feedbacks and responses. For us, the idea of Performing Borders Live, that ran from February 2019 until July, was the idea of trying to explore ways of working together, so we think of it as a beginning of many other discourses and events.